Right, so training like a tool to squat 200 kilos. That's the title of this video. That is pretty accurate. What does that mean? Basically, for the last 2 months, I have been doing the Toshiki, Clarence, Owen Murphy sort of squat challenge thing. So it came out of the Toshiki thing that he basically, to peak for his 321 kilo back squat, he did 5x5 5 times a week with some 3x10 back downs. Owen started doing them, Owen Murphy of Seeker Strength. And then Clarence put out a video on his Patreon about that's basically how he trained when he was younger. Slightly different. He didn't do like the 3x10 back downs, but he just did 5x5, literally like, I think he did it 6 days a week. So I kind of wanted to give it a go. And I have been giving it a go for 2 months now, where I do it 5 times a week. And I have gone from doing 5x5 at 130s with the weights that I started at, to the heaviest session I've done is 5x5 at 170 now. And I've been able to do 5x5 at 160 3 days in a row one time. My single went from 180 beforehand to I've now hit 190 3 different times, and 200's basically there. So why did I decide to do this is a couple of reasons. I liked the idea of the challenge. I was in a position to do so in terms of where my training was beforehand, and I'll talk over that in a minute. And I was moving, so hence me recording in my bed. I have moved to a new place for a new job. I knew that training was going to get thrown, so I basically thought, well, let's just the Olympic lifts off. So let's give you a brief timeline. I sort of started this challenge in October. Now, what led up to that moment is June, July. I was away traveling in Asia. Came back. I had about 6 weeks of training. Mid-September, I competed. Didn't do particularly well. When I knew I was going to move here, I decided to start these squats. Was still doing some Olympic lifts for maybe 2 weeks or so before I just decided to kind of let those peter off. So that's sort of how we've got here timeline-wise. Before I started this challenge, I was doing snatches 5 days a week. I would do some form of clean and jerk variation 3 days a week. And I was alternating between back and front squats every single day. So I've gone from all of those exercises to basically just doing back squat and then maybe one assistance Olympic lifting exercise. So as opposed to doing like what I was doing before, snatch, clean and jerk, squat, accessories, maybe pulls in that session as well. A session is now like, okay, today I'm going to do back squats, and then I'll just do some muscle snatch and overhead squat today, and I'll do like 4 sets of it, and then I might hit some accessories and go home. And the next day I might do some strict press, and maybe like once a week I'll do some split jerks, and once a week I'll do some full snatches. So the volume is way back down. So in terms of progress, I've basically I started with 130 being my baseline number, followed a lot closer to what Clarence was saying, as he would try and do a given number, multiple sessions in a row, and then add weight to it. That was my main aim to do, unless I absolutely couldn't. So I started at 130. I might hit that for like 3 sessions, and then I'd go up, and the next session I'd do 135, 5x5. And I'd do that for a couple of sessions. I'd normally do it for 2 to 3 sessions before trying to bump the weight up. And obviously you can't do this indefinitely, but I did that all the way up to 150, and then I lost the momentum. But I always had this in my head, is what I would do is, even if I felt garbage warming up for a session, I would hit it anyway. So felt garbage. It's like, okay, well, I'm supposed to do 155 by 5 today. So I still go up to the 150. I still do some reps, and maybe I like completely grind out rep 3. And it's like, okay, rack the bar, went down to 120, did like 3 sets of 5, went home, came back the next day. I was like, okay, maybe it was a one-off mistake, like not mistake, fatigue, whatever. Let's hit 150 again. If I did it that day, grand. If I didn't, I would pull back all the way to like 140 for my average working weight. And that's basically the template I followed all the way up to doing 160 for multiple 5x5s. And by that point, I was really approaching new territory. I don't think I'd ever done 160 for five. I definitely never done it for 5x5. I was like, okay, I want to start hitting some heavier weights now. So heavier sets of five or heavier singles. So at the start of November is the first time that I hit a heavy single. So I did a full week of training, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 5x5s at 145. Rested Thursday. Friday, I hit 155x5. And Saturday, I went up in the singles and I did 170 followed by 180. 180 is a match of my PR and it was very comfortable. So that was the plan from then. Well, very comfortable. You can be the judge. I'll put it on the screen. So the next week, again, I hit a single, but I also wanted now to add in the little caveat is okay, I want to do a heavier set of five in some sessions. So, I'd done 165x5. So it's like, okay, can I do 170 for a single set of five? And I did it. It was pretty good. It was so good that I thought, let's try 175, but my legs were fried. But at that point, I knew I could do 175x5s. And then in my most recent single, I hit 190 really comfortably. So I'm actually in a position now where still going to train like a tool and squat loads, but I think I'm going to pull back from doing all the 5x5s and have 3 heavier days. So maybe like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, where I actually work up to like a heavier single or like absolute weights heavier because, I've got to the point where I can do 170 for multiple sets of five. It's like 85% while squatting every day. And all I want to hit is 200 kilos. I'm in a perfect position for it. Now, the most important thing that I'll say at the end of this is not a sensible way to squat 200 kilos. Basically, anyone should be able to do that training the squat like twice or 3 times a week. I just wanted a challenge. So, yeah. Okay, so let's hit you with the too long didn't read, just sort of full video summary. I have been doing this challenge for 2 months. In that time, I've gone from doing 5x5 at 130 to 5x5 at 170. I have almost put 20 kilos on my single. How have I done that? I've been doing 5x5 back squats 5 days a week until about a month in, where it became 5x5 back squats 4 days a week with one heavy single. The reason I could get away with all of this is because my training volume before was very high, and currently all I'm doing is squats. So even though it's very aggressive, my training volume is actually significantly reduced, hence I can recover from it. You probably shouldn't do this and it's not sensible. And that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this, and leave a like if you did.